you said you'd want to talk a little bit about homeschooling. Okay. So, Alevil, let me just explain. I don't know if you're aware. I know you homeschool your children, but in many parts of the world, that's not done. It's never done. And they have no idea what that's about. Okay. So can you talk a little bit about homeschooling and how you do it and how does it work within the family, please?
Sure. Okay, so homeschooling in the definition itself is being educated at home. And the traditional sense of homeschooling is that it is parent-led or child-led as well. So basically, you don't have to conform to a set curriculum, or you can go from one curriculum to another and explore. So there is it's not strict in that sense. However, of course, there are homeschooling providers who are based on the national set curriculum. So they follow that and they just do a home-based learning approach. So you do it either online or through modules or textbooks and stuff like that. But for our family, it's more of a mix of everything. It's what you call an eclectic type of homeschooling. You get one source from this particular curriculum, and then you try another thing, and then this makes sense, and you try that one again. So we don't have to follow any one particular learning modality. We've tried online learning as well. And what we do actually have as a family since we started is a lot of integrated activities. We chose to homeschool so that we could integrate faith into all the lessons, because we believe that that is something that we can have different, because you don't expect other schools to be able to do that in the same way that you can if you have your own family values. And if you are intentional in your parenting, then really it's about choosing to be able to do that and raise your kids and prepare them for life in the best way possible. But of course, according to our faith. I mean, the only reason we continue to do this is because we believe it's God's calling for our family. It's not easy. It definitely has its challenges. So it's not something that is also applicable for many families, since while it's not required that the parent is at home all the time, it's much easier, of course, if one parent is not working, or at least working at home when that is being done. So we have a lot of integrated activities, not only integrating faith lessons into our curriculum, but more of multi-level grades homeschooling. So they do a lot of activities together. And what I learned from the mentors in the homeschooling community in the Philippines is doing it can be simplified by taking the lessons of the bigger kids and having the smaller ones join in as well. So they can join and learn the basics of whatever topic it is. And then the older kids can do more research afterwards, or more in-depth activities related to that particular topic. So doing that allows us to be able to continue learning, even though we don't necessarily follow the exact program schedules or quarterly schedules that the school gives. Before this year, we've been enrolled with the Department of Education accredited homeschooling program with Peñal Integrated Christian Academy of Rizal. But just this year, the government in the Philippines has decided that it would be limited only for students who are in the Philippines. So we had to adjust, and now we are under an international provider. So things are not the same, in the sense that we don't have to be following also the Philippine curriculum. We are more free in that sense. And of course, we still continue to integrate Filipino lessons in our activities. So I hope that with this development, we can also be more free to explore other possibilities as well, since our eldest is now in grade 9, and there are so many possible options for high school now that were not available before. So we're also looking at those options, and so it's not a hindrance in that sense, but just looking at the silver lining, take it as like a ticket to try new things as well.
So you said you are accredited. What does that mean? Did you have to submit activities, or how did you do that? What does it mean?
Previously, when we were under ADEPT or Department of Education accredited homeschooling provider, they give the desired curriculum or the set curriculum from the government, and ideally you follow that, especially when it comes to the exams. You're supposed to at least submit that at the end of the year, and the order of how you do it, maybe not, you don't have to follow it exactly, but you generally have to follow that as a minimum requirement, and then just enhance it with everything else that we do. So one of the amazing things that we've been able to do in the past school year was be involved, of course, here in GIFT and with other IFG organizations as well, such as Korea, because it has opened our minds to how education can really be more global, and how we also want to bring more kids into this path, because it's not something that a lot of people are open to, especially thinking about going into international competition or event. It can be daunting, but we hope that as we continue to join and encourage others and show them what it's like, that they would also take part. And we're so happy to have brought 2 young homeschoolers as well. They presented earlier today, Count Andre and Tywin. So I was so blessed to see them shine with the amazing things that they also are involved in, and just have the opportunity to share and communicate and celebrate their innovations.
Great. So at the end, what do your students get? What do your children get? Do they get a certificate? Do they get a stamp on their forehead? What do they get?
So if you're under an accredited homeschooling provider, you are able to get a report card. But
Oh.
basically the grades come from me. I am supposed to be the one who will put down all the grades, and the school will just check it and see if they have any questions. And then we pass a portfolio, which is a proof of learning, showing that we did have activities, learning activities and other projects that are related to the topics. So that's sort of a proof. In other homeschooling providers, they actually have to defend the portfolio. The kids actually have to stay in front of teacher and present all the projects for that quarter and explain, and the teacher can ask them about it, and that will be part of their grade. So different homeschooling providers have different ways of doing it, but that gives us somewhat a security if you are enrolled in a provider, because you can be sure that you have a report card. If you ever want to go back to regular school or traditional schooling, it's much easier that way. Now, there's another type of homeschooling called indie or independent homeschooling, which is really more of unschooling. You don't have to be enrolled anywhere. You just really allow the kids to learn what they want, or you have your own goals and you get whatever curriculum and materials you think is applicable, and then you don't pay attention, or you're not too overly concerned with grades and certificates and all that. But at the end of the day, those kids who also do homeschooling this way become great entrepreneurs, and when they go to college or are employed, they are very successful, because they are learning based on what happens in life. You don't have to have a lesson plan to learn how to live. So I guess that's something that is also a goal of every homeschooler, is to produce lifelong learners. So you have to have a love for learning, because it doesn't really stop no matter what age. So if you get too overwhelmed with grades and certificates and stuff, sometimes that actually deters you from wanting to learn more, right? But if you instill in children a love for learning, then it makes them lifelong learners. So it doesn't matter if they have never been in traditional school. Once they're there and they're interested because they realize this is something I need, or I want to learn, they would have the ability to adapt.
Now, obviously, your children work with each other, but do they ever get a chance to interact with other children from other families?
We do have a learning co-op, so we have families that we meet. It was more difficult during the pandemic, but we do have a neighbor that we are usually with, the Laxa family. They're also homeschooling as long as we have been, around 10 years. So the kids grew up together and they do a lot of projects together. Aside from that, we've been able to also do online collaboration. So that has been very helpful. Something that was opened up during the pandemic as well.
Yes, there's a big homeschooling program and community here in the United States, and I didn't know if you had connected with any of those people.
I haven't really connected to them in any project or anything right now, but maybe this is the time for us to do it, because we're not hindered by having to follow the Philippine curriculum.
Well, not only that, but you opportunities to meet people in other countries. I mean, the pandemic was just very disruptive for normal education, but
Right.
it has opened up other options that weren't possible. So right now, for example, if you wanted to connect with homeschoolers in Toronto, Canada, it's relatively easy to do now with Zoom and everything else that's going on. If you're interested in connecting with people, we have contacts, from other countries where people are very interested, and then they would love to work with you and your students, to do things across international borders.
That would be amazing. Yes.
So do you work with any families back in the Philippines?
Well, my parents actually have a private school. The students are from K to 12, and so we encourage them with what we do and try to also involve them in things like gift. So I act like a consultant of sorts, because it's different when you are a parent who's really into homeschooling. You try to research everything, you try to find out new things. So there are things that I am able to do or find, which if you just follow a set curriculum, you don't really encounter, right? So I do try to encourage them with that and to invite them as well. And
Yes.
and then of course we have our homeschooling community in the Philippines through Facebook. We are also able to share.
Oh, that's good. So if there's some topic that you'd like to have your children do, and frankly, you don't think that you're very good at it. I mean, so for example, I can't spell. I can't spell. I'm a terrible speller. And you do not want me helping a student learn how to spell, because I will teach them all the wrong things. Are there ways that you can bring your own skills up to a higher level so that you can then pass it on to the other students, to the students?
I can also do my own learning, but another way to do it is to really just connect to others, because through homeschool co-ops or groups, they have clubs that they can
Oh,
join in. Like what happened to my daughter Alira, she was able to join an amazing group that did Model UN. So it was something that I had never had a chance to do when I was young. I am not familiar with these resolutions and stuff like that and how they do it. So if I were to start it myself, it would have taken much longer. It would have been much harder, but they are already existing, and it's about supporting each other with what you're good at. And it's actually absolutely free. The kids are learning also how to mentor. I am amazed at how the older kids are able to handle the younger ones and mentor them I'm hoping that one day my daughter will also be a mentor as well to younger ones in that particular field.
I was part of the Model United Nations when I was in school, and I thought it was an excellent program. Just to let you know, what was so excellent about it is it gave me an opportunity to practice speaking to other people and talking and presenting. But I have seen your children already give presentations, and very frankly, they are way ahead of where I was when I was even 5 years older than them. So I'm sure they will be excellent.
I do hope so. That's all by God's grace. I feel like a director, a scriptwriter, an cameraman, everything in between when I am trying to do these things. But I guess that's one of the things that I didn't plan, but I'm actually a graduate of mass communication, broadcast communication. And I didn't know during that time that I'd be a homeschool mom and I'd be using those skills for my own children. So I believe that was part of what makes it happen, because if you're following your calling, then things fall into place, even though you didn't realize at that time what it was going to be for. God allowed me to have those skills, and I'm hoping that to make the best use of those skills to also encourage and help my children be the best that they can be.
Yes, and for anyone who is watching this live, or we're recording this and it's going to be on YouTube later, anyone who's watching the recording of this conversation, check the YouTube channel. There is a wonderful presentation where it's her children giving all kinds of great presentations and talking. So you definitely want to see that. They really did an excellent job.
Thank you. It's Wonderfully Made Kids Homeschool, and we also have a website. We've not really done this in a way that we were very intentional of, like, no marketing it or anything like that before. So it's not as well put together as, somebody who from the start knew that they wanted to spread out their message, something like that. It started out like a family journal, something that even the kids could go to when they're bigger, and they would have a record of all the things that they've been involved in. But I realized,
Can you
yes.
share the website? Share it.
Okay, I'll share it in the chat.
And no, don't share it in the chat. Share it on the screen, because I want people to see it. They can always go and look.
It's called WonderfullyMadeKids.com. So should I share screen?
Yes, please.
Okay. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, so it's WonderfullyMadeKids.com, and we have our homeschool blog. We call ourselves the Delight Directed Learners because whatever delights us, then that's what we pursue. And it doesn't have to be one thing. So we can be involved with different things at different times of the year. Sometimes there was a year that we realized that each quarter we were actually involved in different things. Like one quarter was all about art. The next quarter was all about toy making. And then there was a quarter that it was all about baking and cooking. So we have a lot of multi-grade level activities because we try to involve the kids in all the things that we do. Like, for example, here in science, I attended a webinar from Pueblo Science. I found that from Facebook. And then I used their material and their suggestions and activities for the kids. So apparently, this was an engineering activity. For example, the earthquake activity where you figure this out. But as you can see, it doesn't matter if the kids are 4 or 13 or 10 and 8. They can do it together. And they would have different levels of understanding the topic, but all of them are enjoying it. Even simple things such as using modeling clay and toothpicks and building, those are things that can definitely be done at any age. And it would be a different result for each one, right? But you'd be surprised because sometimes the younger ones are more adept at doing it than the bigger kids because they're just more imaginative perhaps at that age. So, or they just really have a different skill set. They're better at it than the older kids. And then we've also worked together with our family friend in making Divergence. This was actually something that was inspired by one of the teen panel leader actually, Raheen Fatima. When I saw her last year and went to her YouTube channel and saw how many interviews she's done, it was just so amazing. She was a young person and she was doing all of these great things, interviewing amazing people and learning so much. I pitched the idea to the kids and I told them, let's try it for one time. And it's really about you. We will not do it again if you're not up to it. We'll do it one time and see how it goes. But if you're interested and you are willing, then we can continue and see. And I allowed them to come up with even the posters, how they're going to market it, how they're going to talk about it.
Wow.
And at the first ever one was actually somebody we met at Gift, which is Taylor Quinn. And we interviewed him with the intention of also promoting the Gift challenge of the Nutritious and Delicious K-12 Food Challenge. So that he was the very first interviewee, and it all just blossomed after that. We had 4 more. And we weren't able to do anything recently with interviewing, but we were able to do workshops for peace. Again, these are the same kids working on it together. And so it was like leveling up what we were doing. And it's all because of the inspiration that we got basically from Gift, from this international community, and how inspiring it was that we can dream of doing things that we'd never dreamed before. So I really thank the Gift community for inspiring us to do that.
So all of this is up on the web, and
Mhm.
this is available for anyone to come and look at it. And if some other parents want to use some of your ideas and activities, that would be okay.
Right. And they could also just message the page or message me, because as I said, when we were working on this, it was more of like a journal. So sometimes I don't put in all the details that I could in because of time as well. So sometimes all they have to do is ask me about a certain activity and maybe I'd be able to help them more about it. Like, for example, one of the things that we also tried to be involved in before was Canva. Okay, so we made tutorials hoping to encourage more kids to learn Canva. And it was also one of our posts on how homeschoolers can avail of Canva for education that allowed for a lot of homeschooling families to avail of it. Because before, it was hard to prove that you are a teacher. You have to be a teacher in order to avail of Canva for education. But in our case, how do we prove that we are teachers when we're parents? We don't have an education degree. We're not employed by the school. So we were able to sort it out that they needed a certificate coming from the school that you are enrolled in, certifying that you are a parent teacher and that you are teaching this particular student. And that allowed Canva to approve a lot of us and for us to access Canva for education. So our kids made tutorials, but eventually I realized it wasn't as productive or as needed when Canva was clearly making a whole, so many tutorials themselves. So the information is already out there. You don't have to remake the wheel, as they say, right? So that is a good experience for us. But I also realized that we can also try other things now. And one of the things that we also are involved in, or we started before the pandemic, was learning sign language, specifically Filipino Sign Language as a second language in a way, because it is an entirely different language. It's even different from ASL or American Sign Language. So Alira enrolled in the courses for that. She was one of the first to avail of online classes, because this was done before the pandemic, before the thing just took off and then everything was done online. So we were able to secure that, and we made videos of many of our songs. Usually we use songs when we do sign language, and even Anika, who was 3 at that time, loved to do it. And Asher also, when he was still 6 years old, 7 years old, they are very interested in doing this. Although not being deaf impaired ourselves, I'm sure that the way we do sign language is not as good, and we're not becoming fluent as well, but at least there is enough basic of the language we could at least try to communicate. And that's all about inclusivity as well, because that's what learning is about. You should be inclusive. You should understand that there are people not like you, but if you make an effort to understand them and to communicate with them, then that's what the community is all about.
Wow, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. That is great. So what, just one more question. So how do you decide what your next project's going to be, your next activity? How much in advance are you planning things? Do you know what your students, your children will be doing in September or October?
Have this.
Okay, so we're going to be starting afresh, and one of the things that we are really going to try and do is to do more entrepreneurship activities. With all the resources out there, it's actually trying to pick one and follow and stick to it, right? Because they are interested with it. And it's me as a parent who is not very business minded. So that's why it took a while for me to really, figure out what to do about this, because I'm not business minded myself. But that doesn't mean I can't try and get them the help that they need for them to succeed in this if they are more interested than me. So we have been looking at different sources, resources, and curriculum. And so we've been doing a whole lot of projects. It could be sewing, making toys, baking, and it's just finding a way to also bring that into the market and figure out how that can be a business for them.
I just want to tell you, I think you're wrong. You are business minded. Okay. What is somebody who's business minded? What do? Well, they identify a problem or a need, and then they figure out how to solve it. And then they put together an organization, a structure, a plan, a schedule, and they accomplish what they're doing. That's exactly what you're doing. And you are creating a profit. It's not a profit in money. It's a profit in wonderful children.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's
And-
just that I've
and-
never really looked at myself as somebody who is very interested in making a business or earning a lot. But I do like the activities that we do, fundraising. So that has been something that I have also been involved in, but not for myself.
Listen, anybody can make money. I have met lots of people who make lots of money, okay? But making wonderful adults for the future is what you're making, and that's more valuable than money. Very good. Well,
Thank you.
that's fantastic. Julie is going to edit this and turn this into one of the presentations. And I want to thank you for doing this right off the top of your head. That's great. See, you
Always
are prepared.
happy to be here in Gift and to just have conversations. And thank you for the opportunity for us to also communicate about homeschooling and to share about what we do.
Oh, I know there are people around the world who will be very interested in what you're doing, and they're probably sitting there wanting to do something and saying, but I don't know how to do it. And you're a person who's said, I want to do something, I don't know how to do it, and then you just figured out how to do it. And thank you for being a volunteer to be a resource for them. I know you have encouraged a lot of people. That's wonderful.
Thank you.
And just as a side point, and Julie, you can cut this out of the video if you want. I live in the United States halfway between Boston and New York. Okay. And so if any of your children want to visit the United States, we have a spare bedroom, and they're certainly welcome to come and visit us, and we'll take them to New York, and we'll take them to Boston. They can go to MIT and Boston Harbor and all the things that are there. So you have an open invitation if they ever want to come and visit the United States.
Thank you. Thank you. That would be great. I wonder when that will be, but we never know how
You
things
never
will
know.
be.
Okay, anytime.